Cradle, The Rise of the Chosen, Chapter 10, Part 3. He ducked into an even smaller alley and conjured up a moped and was off. He sped down the narrow earthen alley and kicked up dust. He almost fell off a couple times, never having ridden on an electric bike in his life. He hit a busy street and stopped cold for several minutes. Then it came to him, why not weave? So steadily and carefully, he threaded the needle between the cars, which emitted even more heat in the light of day. He eventually found himself 10 minutes away from the harbor where she was, but as he looked out to sea, he saw her sleek black yacht. He just knew it was her, and it was disappearing into the horizon. Nevertheless, he made his way to the reported dock and looked around for her for 2 hours. Night came quickly, and he looked at his screen and saw that 4 months had passed, and sure enough, he had had those memories. He looked at his screen as the morning shone through and scrolled the news stories for a couple of days, and finally, there was a report that Queen Gianoli would be a speaker at an outdoor cafe for a charity event today in a few hours. The funny thing was that currently he was in the city center, and it was just west, 10 blocks away. He had plenty of time, so he meandered there, and slowly but surely the clouds gathered, and by the time he made it to Bu's, the cafe, it was pouring torrential rain. Obviously, the event was canceled, but he waited in the rain for another 4 months, laughing internally about those somehow true memories. 2 weeks had passed in an afternoon, and he found the news easily. Queen Gianoli was going to be in the hotel that Takuma was currently in the lobby of, and she would be speaking in a matter of an hour. He laughed to himself and got out of the cupped back chair and walked to the auditorium feeling like laughing, but he sensed something. His heart was only beating slightly harder, and he broke a misty sweat. He walked up the stairs in the mezzanine and entered the concert hall by ignoring the host's request for his ticket. Inside, there was a full house. All the seats were taken, but more importantly, Queen Gianoli was talking at the podium, and her voice was beautiful. She was wearing a black dress with sequin adornment. Her hair was flowing and wavy, and the light reflected gold in the lights above the stage. He made his way down the aisle. He was on the same level and walked up towards the stage steadily and confidently, and eventually she saw him and stopped talking. He stared at her as he took his time to reach the stage, and when he reached the opera pit, he stopped and stared at her, and she stared at him too. She looked upon him so lovingly. Her eyes were intense, and she smiled. She had to catch her breath. It was visible, and she put a hand to her chest. Takuma could do nothing but still himself and look up to what he called in his head, my queen. They looked at each other, the whole audience at a loss, and then suddenly the orchestra broke into the most beautiful intro that Takuma had heard in his life, and both he and his queen were on the verge of tears, and he felt lifted but was only waking up. His screen showed that an entire year had passed, but he already felt that as the truth in whatever experience this was.